Hello, hello, hello. Actually, Memorial Day. Happy Monday, y'all. And welcome to FPP Live, a time I connect with you every Monday at 7 p.m. EST, where we talk about the three things you need to live as the highest and best version of who God created you to be and start your business in alignment with it. And those three things are faith, purpose, and profit. Let me stop getting excited so I don't get tongue tied. So, yes, I'm committed every Monday to give you the ingredients, the insight so that you live into your abundantly above all you could ever ask or think. And because there's a special assignment God has for you. And when you get clear on it and you live in it unapologetically, it does a couple things. Well, it does, let me just say it like this. It brings profit to you. The word profit means gain. So God wants you to gain, but at the same time, you're gaining for the kingdom when you do the thing you were purposed and created to do. So with that, we've been in a series. I missed last week. By the way, those of you that you're here for the first time, you know when I look over here, I'm looking at my comments. So, number one, if this is your first time, say, "Hey, Nicole, it's my first time." Say hello as you're coming in, whether you're watching the replay or you're here with me live. If I share anything that resonates with you, I want to know. And if you have questions, post those as well. So you'll see me looking here and over here to make sure I don't miss any comment. All right. So this is part 6 in the series. I missed last week because I was on the road. I was out of town. And if you missed my post today that I posted on my personal Facebook page, I posted it in Instagram as well, around me growing me. And I want you to get this. Why would you ever want anybody to coach you? Because some of you are virtual. Some of you guys, I'm your virtual coach. If I'm not committed to grow me, how do I grow you? Mhm. So I just finished a program last week, and because I was in New York last week, I missed being live with you, but I'm here this week. So this is the final part in the 6-part series. We're gonna close this series up with a bow. So the series we've been in is called Success Doesn't Equal Easy. I think so many people, now that I think I know, that so many people get to a level of success and they think, oh, what I've done here will get me to this level. And you've got to understand one of my favorite quotes by Bishop A.R. Bernard is the tools that you've used on this level are not sufficient for your next. And because you've gotten to a level of success, you think, oh, well, I know what to do to get to the next, and you don't. So that next level challenges you, it pushes you to grow in a way that you may have never even thought possible. I'm sharing that because again, I posted this this morning. I just finished a program myself, and it stretched me and had me look at my own brilliance in ways that I never even thought possible. That's the purpose of this series, and that's the purpose in everything I do. So, quick review. By the way, if you missed any of the sessions that I'm going to walk you through, you can go back and watch previous episodes of our FPP Live. That's my NRJ Network web address there. NRJnetwork.com is my YouTube channel. And go back and watch all these episodes because the way I teach, one builds on the next. All right. And again, I see people coming in, so at least say hello. As my grandmother would say, don't walk in this house and not speak. And today you're in my virtual house, so at least say, hey, girl, hey, and tell me where you are in the world. So our foundational Bible verse for this series has been Deuteronomy 8:18, which says, "And you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you power to get wealth, that He may establish His covenant, which He swore to your fathers, as it is this day." So episode 1, which again was called Success Doesn't Equal Easy, was all about who God established that covenant with, and that was with Abraham. So I dug into that in our first episode. And by the way, in each episode, I've been digging into the what I would call the stories of people that are in God's Wealth Hall of Fame. God wants you to profit. He wants you to profit because when you profit, He gains. The kingdom gains. I'm gonna break that down in this episode. Okay. So week 1 was all about Abraham. And Abraham is the father of, listen, I remember when I was little, one of my one of my first songs that I learned in Sunday school was Father Abraham had many sons. And many sons had Father Abraham. Okay, I can't sing, so let me stop there, right? So Abraham is who God established that covenant with, and we all are his descendants. Then the following week was called You Need More Than Just Marketing. Now, knowing who you're serving will cost you. And the example that week, our muse for that week was Esther. Listen, it could have cost her her life. And so for many of us, it may not cost us our life, but it could cost us everything when we're not clear on who God has created us to serve. Then episode 3 in this series was workplaces as a man that you move past your potential. Oh, the stories I could tell you about the men I dated with potential because could see their potential. I could see what was possible. But if they're not willing to actually do the work to get past what's possible to actually being real, and that was all about Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dream Code. Again, you see at the bottom of the screen, nrjnetwork.com if you missed any of these, because Joseph was born with potential, but him interacting it was something altogether different. Then episode 4 was how to stand out in your marketplace. And I talked to you about Ruth. Ruth's story in the Bible, by the way, Esther and Ruth are the only two women that have books named for them in the Bible. And so many people just focus on Boaz. But what Ruth did was she stood out, and that is why Boaz even saw her as his wife. Come on, somebody. And then our last episode, which was a couple of weeks ago, was a secret to recession proof your business. The one thing that never gets canceled is your purpose. But are you clear on it? Are you standing in it unapologetically? Are you doing the thing that God crafted and created you to do? And I use a Proverbs 31 woman as our example in that episode because we often hear about this virtuous woman, but it was more than that. It was about her work ethic, her diligence, her wisdom, her ability to stand out and do the thing she was created to do. So now we're at our final series, our final episode for this series, which is called Fear is a Powerful Tool in a Successful Business. Why? Because here's the thing I want you to really understand. Let me take this off. So many people feel fear and they think, oh, I'm not meant to do this. Let me explain to you what fear might look like. It could look like, public speaking. That was me. So because I'm afraid of it doesn't mean I'm not meant to do it. No. It could be fear of failure, fear of the unknown, fear of taking risks, fear of change. All those things will come up for you when God is calling you to expand your territory, to play bigger than you've ever played, to go beyond what you already do. Listen, I'm allergic to average. And when you've already been doing the thing that you're doing right now for years, you've got it on lock. That means that there's another level for you. So staying here is settling for average. And for you to push past where you are, it will call you to have to do it afraid. And how do I know this? Oh, many of you guys have heard my story. And the fact that I was struggling, I was failing in my business. And the reason I was failing is because I would only do what was easy. It wasn't until I risked it all to gain it all that I actually saw the next level of my business come forth. Another great example of that is any of you guys that have seen the Air movie about Air Jordan. I'm not going to tell a movie premise. Spoiler alert. I'm not going to tell it. Don't worry. If you haven't seen it, I want to encourage you to go and watch the movie because it's not even about Michael Jordan. It's about the man at Nike that risked it all for Air Jordan. It didn't look like it was possible. He could have failed miserably. And many of us want it to be easy. Many of us want it to be easy and we want to not do it if it's hard. And I need you to get this. I believe that fear comes as a test from God. So fear is either one of two things. Fear can be one of two things, right? So fear is either face everything and run or face everything and rise. See, I believe that God gives us these moments of fear because he's stretching us to grow. That is your rise. And so our example for this conversation in our last part of the series is David. Now we all have heard David's story, David and Goliath and all of that, right? And many of you have heard this ad nauseum, like me, since you were little. But the one thing we don't stop and realize is that what David did in that moment, you all, listen, when Goliath was terrorizing the town and the army wouldn't fight him and then the Marines wouldn't fight him and the Navy wouldn't fight him and nobody would fight him and little 12-year-old David said, I'll do it. But see, what David did in that moment was he rised. He didn't run. He said, listen, I'm willing to stand in the gap for my people. And that's the same thing that Esther did, that Joseph did, that Abraham did, that even the Proverbs 31 woman did, even Ruth. And so I wonder if you realize that God created you with a giant that you are meant to slay. And every day you think of any excuse why you can't, which is laced in fear, you're holding up somebody's answered prayer. That is why this is so important. See, fear is a powerful tool because I believe God uses fear to stretch you, to grow you, to move past average or ordinary. Listen, deliberate mediocrity is a sin. One of my favorite quotes, right? So fear requires that you rise above where you already are. So here's a Bible verse. Well, let me give you the three things. The three things that David teaches us about our rise. Not running from our fear, but how do we rise in the midst of it? Okay. So the first thing that he teaches us, and by the way, this is about you conquering your giant. We all have giants to conquer. Whether that's your mindset, whether that's a problem that God created you to serve, or anywhere in between, you have a giant that you were crafted and created to take down. But it will require you to have the courage to do it. Matter of fact, you'll have to do it afraid. Fear doesn't go away. I'll give you a great tool, one of my favorites at the end, right? So let me give you the three. So the first one is three things that David did that really show us how we can rise in the face of fear. The first thing is he remembered what he had been through. So 1 Samuel 17:34 through 36. Now, keep in mind, this is at the time that, again, all the army, the navy, the marines, nobody will fight David. The king Saul, David said, I'll do it. And so this whole, actually the whole chapter 17, 1 Samuel, chapter 17, really goes through what happened in those moments, okay? So I'm going to read to you verse 34 and 36. Okay. Now, again, this is David remembered what he had been through. This is what he said to Saul. Okay. He said, your servant used to keep his father's sheep. And when a lion or a bear came and took a sheep out of the flock, I went out after it and struck it and delivered the lamb from its mouth. And when it arose against me, I caught it by its beard and struck and killed it. Your servant has killed both lion and bear. And this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God. See, again, David realized, listen, had God not put David in that shepherd field? Now, let me back up. David's story. Now, if you've been around me, you've heard me tell the story because, listen, everybody I've used in this series, by the way, are one of my favorites. So, David, one of eight. He has seven other brothers. When the what's the word I'm trying to think of? The prophet knew that the next king was in David's father's household, Jesse. And so he went to Jesse saying, one of your sons is the next king. Jesse brought the first son, the second son, the third son, the fourth son, the fifth son, the sixth son, the seventh son. And the prophet kept saying, not him. And then he said, but wait a minute, you have another son. Where is he? David was in the field tending to the sheep. He said, send for him and bring him in. And he said, this is the one that's meant to be king. Do you know what David did? He took his butt back in the field to tend to the sheep. I wonder if you would remain committed to the thing God's called you to do. If you have a vision that is supposed to be here, even though you're here right now. And many of you, the reason why you won't get the tools that you need is because you're like, I'm supposed to be here because God said it, or I had this vision, or I know I felt it in my spirit, but you've got to take time to develop. And that's what David did. See, what I realized is the reason that this happened in this way. If David would have been ordained king in that moment, he would not have fought any lions or bears, let alone a Philistine named Goliath. And even after he fought Goliath, do you know what happened? That gave him the respect that he needed as the king. God knows what he's doing. Come on, somebody. Even what's interesting is first of all, the Psalms are written by David, okay? So Psalms 143, 4 through 5 says this, and this is David talking. Therefore, my spirit is overwhelmed within me. My heart is within me, is distressed. I remember the days of old and meditate on all your works. That's him talking to God. I remember what I've been through. I remember how you delivered me time and time and time and time again. And I am standing still and rising above where I am, remembering all that you've brought me through. This you can't go to high school if you haven't gone through kindergarten or first grade or second grade, let alone junior high or etc. Your purpose matriculates. And so you got to be willing to do the work to grow you and remember everything you've already been through. The second thing that David realizes after he realizes all the training he'd been through is he remembers how gifted he already is. So he goes on to say in 1 Samuel 17:38 through 39. So what Saul did after David said, I'll fight him. Saul, and this is the Bible verse. So Saul clothed David with his armor, and he put a bronze helmet on his head. He also clothed him with a coat of mail. David fastened his sword to his armor and tried to walk, for he had not tested it. And David said to Saul, I can't walk in these, for I have not tested them. In other words, this ain't me. This is how you fight. And if you go on to read after that, what David does is pretty much say, I know I'm gifted with a slingshot. He remembers in the way that he is gifted. I think what I've not I think I see so many people that start businesses that they forget who they are. Well, let me break it all the way down. Not that they forget. They don't take the time to get clear on who they are, who they're called to serve, and how they serve them in a way that's unique to you. And because of that, you fail. That was me in my business for years, especially now because in these entrepreneurial streets, entrepreneurship is sexy right now. And so everybody wants to start a business. But if you're not clear on who you be and your giftedness, you will look up and do things the way everybody else is doing it. And listen, God did not use a cookie cutter when he created you. He didn't. He didn't. And this is why I see so many people fail. It's because you doubt who you are. You start second guessing yourself because you see somebody else being successful. You're like, oh, well, I don't do what I like her. You're not meant to do it like her. Listen, if I tried to be Oprah, every day I'd fail. Just like dare I say, if Oprah tried to be me, every day Oprah would fail. The nerve. But yeah, that's real. So this is where something called imposter syndrome comes up. So listen, I want to read the definition of imposter syndrome. So I looked it up in two different places. One, Psychology Today defines it as a gnawing feeling of self-doubt and incompetence coupled with the dread of being exposed as a fraud. Listen, when you've been at a 9 to 5, you're starting a business and you've never done what you do in this way, you feel like, oh, somebody's gonna find out I don't know what I'm doing. Listen, your gift doesn't lie. So because David had never fought a giant before, doesn't mean he didn't know what to do. He had fought a lion and he had fought lions and bears. Many of the soldiers in the army had never done that. So I think it's so important for you to stop and remember who you are. I know for me in my business, at a time when I was failing my business, can I tell you why I was failing? Listen, I had spent 8 years in the entertainment industry. I absolutely love producing and casting. Do you know I was overlooking my gift to produce? I was overlooking it. Matter of fact, I was doing it in my sleep. And because of that, I never even talked about it. And now what do? I produce my clients. And I love it. But because no one else was talking about it in my marketplace, I thought, oh, well, I don't even think I thought, oh, I can't do that. I just never even saw it. And many of you, you are brilliant. Not many, all of you are brilliant because God doesn't make a mistake. And because you have a level of brilliance that is meant to be an answer, you overlook it because you do it on autopilot. And then you start to doubt it, like, who's going to pay me for that? Or you start second guessing it, like, people are going to find out I don't know what I'm doing. I want you to get this. You may not know what you're doing as you start your business, but your gift does. So if David would have said, I don't know what I'm doing when I fight a giant, he didn't. He'd never fought a giant before, but he trusted his gift. And many of you are not clear on your gift. Therefore, how do you trust something you're not clear on? The third thing that David teaches us is he relied on the power of God. First Samuel 17:45 says, "You come to me with a sword, with a spear, and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." It's like David realized in that moment that everything he had been through was for such a time as this. That's a verse from Esther, just like Esther and Ruth and all the other folks I've shared with you in our journey over the last few weeks in this series. There's a Bible verse that says, and I can't remember where it is because it just jumped in my spirit. All things work together for the good. I think that's Romans either 8:29 or 8:28 is one of those two. All things work together for the good. See, God knows your end from your beginning. So everything that you go through is an instrument God uses for you to be successful. But there are times when you will not see it, you won't understand it. And that's what we've got to, as it says in Proverbs 3:5 and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. Those of you that have been here with me for a while, I always talk about the be, do, have formula. So many of us focus on what do I need to do, what do I need to do, and you leave out your being. God shows up only in your being. See, if you're too busy, God's like, okay, I'm gonna let you be busy. I'm not gonna even worry about you. And so many of you will look at yourself and say, well, I'm only like David. David could have said, I'm scrawny, I'm 12, I'm little. How am I gonna fight this 8 foot tall giant? Think of like The Rock. And like David is like little, 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 like let's say 5 feet. Like Webster. Those of you that remember Webster don't make me feel old, right? If you don't know who Webster is, Google it. But he was more committed and trusting God. Again, fear, you have one or two choices in fear. You can face everything and rise, or you can face everything and run. David was willing to rise past what he could see, to rise past his own belief, to rise past his emotion. Because even Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, when Jesus prays, God, please take this cup from me, that's Jesus being in his feelings. And then he says right after that, but wait a minute, Lord, not my not my will, but your will be done. In other words, it ain't about me. And many of you, the reason you haven't gotten to the success that's possible for you is because you're making it all about you. You're making emotional decisions. You're making decisions based on flesh. You're not making any decisions based on faith, right? I'm saying that with all the love in me because I'm going to tell you, my business failed until I was willing to risk it all to gain it all, until I was willing to do what it took to trust God in the face of fear. Now, I got a couple questions for you to assess where you are. But before we do this, listen, those of you that know, like, it's time to start your business, or you've already started your business and you're not making the revenue you're meant to make, next Monday, I won't be here live for FPP Live, but I will be doing a 3-day master class called Purpose to Profit. And so I'm going to play this quick video. Many of you guys have seen it. If you haven't registered, I want to encourage you to register. This is going to be the last time I do Purpose to Profit. Why? Because I feel something new brewing inside of me. So let me play this quick commercial for you, and I'll come back. I'll wrap this up and give you the questions to ask, assess where you are in regards to your courage. All right. Be back after this. I see so many people talking about finding their purpose or starting a business only to get off track or trying to do a million different things. And why is this a bad thing? Well, because you end up being just okay at many things, but never great at the one thing that God created you to do. Now, here's the thing. When you focus on your one true calling, your brilliance will naturally shine through and change your life. It'll change your life, your business, and your bank account for the better. But how do you figure out the strategy to align your purpose with profit? Well, that's the exact reason I'm inviting you to join me for my free 3-day Purpose to Profit Masterclass. Register to join me by going to purposeprofitmasterclass.com. See, in those 3 days, I'm going to share the insight that changed the game, not just for me, but it's shifted the trajectory for others that I've been blessed to coach and teach. And here's what you must know. When you understand your purpose and how God wired you to make a profit from it, when you understand that you're not called to serve everybody or do everything, but recognize what you are called to do and you stand in it and learn how to create multiple streams of income from it, it changes everything. You don't want to miss this. And here's something else you must know. God will let you live on whatever level you settle for. And why would you settle for good enough? Yeah, I said that even if you're already successful, God has more for you to do. And He has a breathtaking future waiting for you. And that's the exact reason I'm inviting you to join me. Go to purposeprofitmasterclass.com and reserve your seat. I can't wait to serve you. Again, starting next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, June 5th, 6th, and 7th, I'll walk you through the three things you need in order to live as the highest and best version of who God created you to be. I think so many people overlook so much in each of these three areas and then wonder why their business isn't successful. So, listen, you'll see more on the page. And by the way, when you register, you get a manual. Why? Because I don't care if you get excited or motivated from what I teach you. I need you to be able to implement. So that's why I give you a manual. Okay. So listen, day one, we're going to uncover your purpose. So what's your niche? What's the lane God created you to dwell in? Listen, you're not meant to do everything for everybody. So you've got to get clear on the one thing you were created to do. And see, when you get clear on that, that makes you stand out in the sea of people that do what you do. The second is identifying your platform. Listen, on marketing, so many people ask me about TikTok and should I do TikTok videos or should I do this or should I do that? Listen, you've got to be clear on the platform that's in alignment with your purpose. Just because you see me doing something or someone else doing something, if it's not in alignment with who you're called to serve and the way that they need you, you shouldn't be doing it. The problem is so many people don't get clear on number one, let alone how to move that into their platform. So important because it's from this place that people will hear you. They'll see you, they'll feel valued by you, and then they will pay you, which moves us to day three, which is multiply your profit. Listen, on day three, I'm going to walk you through one of the revenue streams, to be honest with you, is how to make money while you sleep. Because if you're starting your business alongside your 9 to 5, which is smart, then you've got to be able to generate revenue while you're not present. Now, I've only given you the tip of the iceberg of what I'm teaching you in those 3 days. So listen, make sure you register. Purposeprofitmasterclass.com is where you go. And in addition, you'll have access to the replays until Saturday of that week, okay? Which I think is the 10th, June 10th. I don't have dates in front of me. So, with that said, let me wrap up our whole conversation with a nice bow. So, again, over the last weeks, we've been talking success doesn't equal easy. If you're going to live as the highest and best version of who God created you to be, you've got to be willing to do it afraid. You got to be willing to stretch yourself, to go beyond who you already are. See, God could care less about who you already are. That version of you is done. He's looking at who you have not yet become, which would require you to stretch, to move past easy or comfortable and go after doing the thing that scares you. Mhm. So, by the way, I'm going to give you a couple questions to ask yourself, but I want to share with you. So, years ago, I bought this book called Do It Afraid by Joyce Meyer. Now, listen, Joyce has rewritten this book. Now, you see how thin this book was? Now, the book is a whole big old thick version of it. But listen, the thing I love about now, I haven't read this whole book. I bought it because I wanted to see the difference, and I haven't read it yet. But this book, which I'm sure is the same as this one's probably just more expanded. It talks about all the people that God used. Many of the examples I gave you, all of them had to do with afraid. So when you think I'm going to wait until, and any excuse you give is laced in fear, fear does not go away. It's when you use faith. Listen, I always say faith is fear in reverse. You would either have faith or you have fear. Can't have both. Choose. So here are a couple questions I want you to ask yourself to really look at where you are in your journey. Number one, when was the last time you were in a situation where you were uncomfortable? Did you choose to remain comfortable or did you choose faith? Mhm. Question number two, what are your reaction? Or what do you think about being outside of your comfort zone? Can I tell you now, I'm so used to being outside of my comfort zone that I realized, like, I just finished a program, Goldman Sachs, and I was so uncomfortable. And then I thought I was starting one division, and it ended up being two. Uncomfortable. God does his best work when you move yourself and your emotions out of the way. I go on and on about that. Number three, do you pray to God to get through what scares you, or do you just choose to stay in comfort? Do you trust God in the middle of it like David did? David didn't know if he was going to win and kill the Goliath. Just like in the movie, again, go watch it air. Those of you that have, I think it's Netflix or is it might be Amazon Prime. I don't remember. But the point is, the Nike executive risked it all to gain it all. And at the end of the movie, you see the statistics That happened because of the risk he took. He had no guarantee that good things were going to come. But we know what Air Jordan is because of him. There isn't no Air Jordan. But he was willing to risk it all. That's uncomfortable, y'all. The last thing I want to ask you, are you willing to consider that where you are right now might be outside of the will of God for you? See, when you want it to be easy, you want it to be comfortable. 9 times out of 10, when you have this urging, this inkling to do abundantly above all you can ever ask or think, that's God calling you out to your next level. And sometimes when you choose comfort over your conviction, what you're doing is you're outside of the will of God for your life. Each of us has a mandate that God gave to us at birth. And so in our time together doing purpose to profit, I'm going to help you get clear on that. Why? Because there are people that need you. So I created you. You're the answer. Just like David was the answer to all of his community, just like Esther, just like Joseph, just like Ruth, just like the Proverbs 31 woman, just like Abraham. You too have the ability to do something significant in this life. Those of you that are going to join me next week, I look forward to serving you. PurposeProfitMasterclass.com. So I will not be live next week for FPP Live. I'll be here teaching you PurposeProfitMasterclass.com so you can get access to the trainings, the replay, and your manual because I need you to be able to actually write and listen. I'm going to be asking who has questions and coaching you live as well. So I want to encourage you to join me starting Monday, 7 p.m. EST here in my Facebook group. But in order to get all the manuals and all the additional things, you've got to register. All right. So with that said, it's always my honor and privilege to pour into you, to share with you. Listen, I want to ask you, tell me the one thing you got valuable out of this series. Tell me the one thing you're going to do to move forward. Those of you that are ready and you join me next week for Purpose of Profit, I can't wait to pour everything you need to let's live as the highest and best version of who God created you to be. Yes, to be the answer of all for all those that need you, but to also create multiple streams of income for you as you do it. So that you have a profitable, successful business. And as you do, you gain for the kingdom. All right. So with that said, have a phenomenal rest of your Memorial Day. I'll see you next week for Purpose to Profit Masterclass. Again, PurposeProfitMasterclass.com is where you go register. All right. Have a great Monday. Tell me your value, God. I'll see y'all soon. Bye, y'all.